So welcome back to part 3 of my DIY gravel driveway. So you know the score. If you want to see how we're getting on, then keep on watching. So the first thing I had to do was install these concrete gullies. And I got these from Selco, and I think they were about £10 each or £15 each, I can't remember. But this saved me so much time and hassle of making my own. So to install them, I needed to build the height up a little bit because we're still going to add 50mm of gravel there. So I decided to mix some mortar up and place 3 bricks around there. Now, I'm not saying this is the right thing to do. I've never seen anybody do this before, but I'm happy with it. So if you want to recommend a different way, feel free to comment below. And once I get my bricks in place, I'd add more mortar on there and place the gullies on top, obviously making sure they're level. But I also use where the bricks lied as a guide. And I filled any gaps with mortar. And I had 3 of these to do. And again, had to use some frost proofing. Then by this point, absolutely all of the aggregate that we'd had delivered had been sprinkled all over the drive. So I went over the whole area and eyeballed it and raked everywhere to try and make sure everything was level. And I also hired this plate compactor or whacker from Travis Perkins. It was 35 quid for a week this time. A little bit dearer than when I hired it for my patio, and it was a smaller version. And if you are doing a driveway, I personally wouldn't get this one again. I don't actually think this has got enough weight to compact the aggregate. So I will be hiring another one to use just before and after the gravel's been installed. But here I'm refamiliarising myself with how to turn it on. I will leave a brilliant video below. And I gave the whole area about 3 or 4 passes. But I definitely think it could have done with more, but the following day we had loads of snow. Then the next time I could finally use it was when most of the snow had cleared. And again, my father-in-law gave me a fantastic tip, and that was to see if there was any dips or grooves, and then go over it with a rake again to make sure it's level. And then finally went over the whole area again with my whacker, and then took it back the next day. So as you know, in my last video I had to leave it over Christmas, but it gave us time to think about what kind of gravel we wanted. And I found a local one called Atherstone Landscapes, and they were the cheapest, the closest and the best delivery prices. So I went along and bought a load of samples. That way I could just plonk a load in front of my house, get an idea of what I wanted, rather than having a costly mistake and totally regretting it. But if you're from up north like me, then I do know a company called Decopack. This is not a sponsored video, but they just happen to be the same suppliers as these, so I'll leave a link to those below as well, and they're roughly about the same price. So I really struggled to make my mind up of what I wanted. So I decided to lay very generous amounts along the front of the house and take some photos and ask you all on Instagram and Facebook to see what you thought was the best. And most of you actually said you preferred this one because it was a nice contrast against the house. But then the next morning I realised it must have been wet when I laid it down because it dried all pale and dusty grey, so that was completely out. So we just went for the golden one instead, and it was £78 a tonne, but other companies quoted me £130, so you really do have to shop around. So once we'd placed our order, I just blended it all in with a rake. And then finally I got the whacker I wanted, and I got this from Travis Perkins again, and because I mentioned I had a discount for one in August, they knocked this down to £39 for the week, so I wasn't grumbling. It's so much heavier, so I needed help getting it out of the van, but that meant it compacted the ground more as well. So I went over the lot about 3 times just to make sure.
It makes you blink, to stop and think. A woman and a whisk broom can accomplish so darn much. So never underestimate a woman's touch.
And this is how it looked. And now it was ready for the delivery, which came within 24 hours. I was very impressed. So I'm secretly filming at this stage, and we'd ordered 8 tonnes. Okay, so if we got like 4 here and 4 around there, do you think? Is that possible? later that afternoon, my fiance got cracking, splitting open the bags and laying out as much as he could. I think he did about 3.5 bags. So while he's doing that, I thought I should sort out this drop bolt for the bottom of my gate. And I'd cut about 1 foot of steel pipe down that I knew the drop bolt would fit through. This pipe was actually from Screwfix for about £6. So I closed the gates to line everything up and then lowered the drop bolt, just moving it around just to make an impression in the ground, and then drilled straight through that with a masonry drill bit using my dad's Hilti drill. But it did take a few attempts because some of the gravel just kept caving in, so I had to scoop a fair bit away just to get the pipe in. And then hammered it in. I would have loved to use a mallet, but I think the last one broke, so we threw it away, which I should have replaced, so I had to go gently with this in case I warped it. And then put the drop bolt in, gave it a bit of a kick just to straighten it up, and then left that for now because we'd be cementing it in later. So now it's the weekend and we're on one of the last parts, hurrah! So we both took it in turns to shovel and wheelbarrow it down to the bottom of the drive, and as you can imagine we were doing that for quite a bit. And then we spread the whole up with a rake. And of course, this is Britain, it was raining again like every other outdoor video that I've filmed. But wait a minute, there's now snow! And then once most of that was spread out, we did hold on to 1 ton just so we can patch bits up here and there, particularly near the gate where that pipe is. It was my fiance's turn to whack the whole drive. And he went around it about 3 times again, and we didn't have to fill the tank up once, whereas the small one before, I had to fill it up regularly. So the next morning, to our surprise, it started snowing again. But this time it was relentless. We didn't want to waste a perfectly good day to try and finish it. So I thought I'd cement in the pipe for the drop bolt at the bottom of the gate. So I cleared the hole and removed any gravel that had fallen down there and surrounded it with some mortar mix. But I did add some frostproofing again. And from time to time I'd poke it with a stick to push the cement in and then close the gate and fit the drop bolt in just to make sure it was aligned correctly. And then I thought while it was wet I'd place some gravel on top. And then we worked on clearing that last ton of gravel. And I just raked it in with the rest and kept taking it in turns. And finally I went over the whole lot again a couple of times with a whacker, but I feel like I need to do this again once the snow is definitely gone, because there was still some sleet here. And just ignoring some of the snow, this is what it looks like. We're extremely pleased, it's very practical, we love the golden colour, and I couldn't tell you right now how much it cost in total, so once I've totted it up, I'll leave a comment below and I'll pin it for you. But I don't think this project cost us any more than £1,300 or something like that. And originally, we were quoted £3.5 grand for this when we first moved in. So it's nice knowing we've saved a lot of money for other projects. So that's it for our driveway gravel project. I do want to go over it a few times with a whacker, and what I want to do next week, once the snow is cleared and everything, I want to lay some patio slabs directly in front of the front door. And I think that's about it. Oh, and get some plant pots and things and tidy up my raised bedding area. So if you do anything differently, feel free to comment below. And if you liked it, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.